You're at your old trusty boat. You call mighty sparrow. I'm in the city of Mardi Gras.
Welcome to the Sailing into Oblivion podcast, where we sit down with everyday people who do extraordinary things. I'm your host, Jerome Rand. Hey, everybody. Just coming at you from an evening podcast. This is going to be a pretty quick one. Just kind of in a really good mood. It's been a crazy week, but a ton of stuff's gotten done, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from everybody, so I just felt like hopping on the old mic for a quick half hour and pushing this one out. But before I start, I definitely have to say it. If you want to support the podcast, head over to Patreon. The link will be in the description. And if you want to reach out to the show, just head to sailingintooblivion.com and you can email me directly. I always read them, and I absolutely love getting them. Lastly, big shout out to Pax and Amy. They are friends of the show. They've both been on, and they are doing little mini passages. The adventure has begun. So, Pax and Amy and Bubble, can't forget Bubble. I wish you guys the best. Fair winds and following seas, and I hope to see you soon. All right, here we go. Good evening, everybody. Holy smokes, what a whirlwind we live in these days. I'm coming to you not from an early morning, although this morning was and tomorrow will be. I'm coming to you from post crazy day at work. Launched, I don't even know how many boats, moved some of the bigger boats in the yard, and just a hectic, crazy day after not a ton of sleep last night. But I really was looking forward to going to sleep, and then I opened up my email, and I just have to, I don't know, I have to get on here, and I have to talk because the email that I read was just the kind of stuff that you don't forget, and absolutely amazing. Got an email about the last show that I did, the one with Rob, and Rob is still here. He and Eric are over on the boat, not 30 feet away from Mighty Sparrow. Chatted with him a few times today, chatted with him tonight. We're going to be launching their boat tomorrow, and just absolutely blown away. Just had a great email come in talking about, and I'm gonna pull it up real quick so I can just at least make sure I get the name right. Miles, yeah, this one goes out to you, and I'm sure you'll probably listen to this, but really just wanted to touch base about the whole PTSD stuff and sort of the heavy stuff that we got into on the last podcast. And I remember bleeding out or bleeping out a few things onto Twitter or things like that, just saying, I just did an interview and it was pretty much why I get into podcasting, what I envisioned this podcast could be, at the core, something about sailing. And those are the people that surround me because I'm always either in boatyards or marinas or this or that. But to have somebody come on and be able to be that honest about the struggles and the challenges and the triumphs that you can go through in life, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it right now. And to see how Rob can just go through life right now with such a positive attitude, and after everything that he's been through, that's the stuff. That is the real deal thing that I think a podcast sort of like this, or any other podcast that actually sits down with real people that aren't trying to sell you anything, it's so valuable. And to get feedback like I got from Miles, and I've gotten plenty of emails, talking about how a bunch of people enjoy the podcast, and that is definitely, it's a huge boost for me to keep trying to pin people down and get more content for everybody, because it really is It's absolutely amazing. I mean, to read about that, I don't know. It almost makes me speechless. But I was about to go to bed, and I read that, and now I've got this huge amount of energy, and I just want to create. I want to make more. I don't want to give you more, and I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about the podcast lately, and trying to figure out exactly what direction it really should go. And I think there really isn't just one direction. I want to just go full bore, all degrees of the compass, essentially. I've been enjoying sitting down with some of these experts that I have up here that are friends, fiberglass and with Peter Beal. I think tomorrow hopefully I've got Murph on the hook, because you know what? Murph is great to just sit and shoot from the hip and just riff with, and he's fun, he's funny, he's got a lot of experience doing all his stuff, but in essence, he's been painting the bottoms of boats for years and years and years, and he's really, really good at it, and he's seen all types. He's seen, I'm going to hopefully get him on the podcast tomorrow and do a little top tips from Murph, essentially. And, we've got a rigger up here who's just phenomenal, who's done a lot of work on Mighty Sparrow. So I think we're going to try and dive into some of those every once in a while and mix those in with more personal stories from other sailors and things like that. And then hopefully every once in a while I'll just get on here by myself and, try and tell you how my life is going and what's going on. And I don't know. I think sort of in that respect, I'm still floating a little bit on cloud nine, because I did the first presentation that I have done, even though it was online. I did the first one that I've done in, I don't know, close to a year, I think. It's been a long time. I mean, I was very fortunate to get a few corporate gigs over this whole last 2 years, and they've all been online, obviously, but it's nice to still be able to tell the story and really try and convey a little bit of the wisdom that I learned. I'm not saying that I'm a wise man by any means, but I don't know. Experience counts for some things in that. And with this one though, it was for a pretty big, well-known company, which I won't name, but it was, I don't know, it was sort of the real deal. And I sort of broke free from my normal just telling this story and letting people take from it what they will. And I just kind of tried to go the route of, these were the most important things that I learned along the way of how I was able to keep going through all the different adversity and all the different things that I don't know, even now when I think about doing it, I'm like, oh, geez, I couldn't handle that. But I think we all do that as we get older. I'm pretty sure I could handle most of it, but you never know. But it was so incredible to be on there and just and hear the words coming out of my mouth and having these takeaways and all this sort of stuff. It just, I don't know, it was different, and the response to it was absolutely phenomenal, which I was pretty nervous about. I'm not going to lie. I stressed over this one for a while because, again, I hadn't done it in a long time. And, if you're sitting there and you're telling a story and narrating through these video clips and these pictures for an hour and then doing Q&A, it's essentially like you're doing a show. You're on point at that stage. And I don't know, it was I was pretty nervous, and so I worked on it pretty hard. And I remember just a few nights before I actually had to give it and do the presentation, which, matter of fact, I ended up, because we don't have great internet, obviously, up here in the boatyard, I ended up renting a small room up in, and I may have mentioned this before, but I rented a small room up in the public library up here, and Yeah, it worked out great. I actually screwed up the times though. The day before we figured that out, and so I had to have the library open up an hour early. But they do that for a small fee, very reasonable, which is fantastic. And yeah, it just I don't know. It went surprisingly well, and I think it's going to take some of these presentations in a different direction. At least when it comes to the corporate stuff, where that's what they really have you in there for, is to try to give all these examples and really, transfer your knowledge that you learned right onto people and make it relatable into, a business sort of sense or a team building sort of sense. And I'm definitely game for it. I think it's great. Before I was doing the solo sailing stuff, I was managing water sports centers and all that, and that's intense work. You've got a team of 20-something-year-old instructors, and then you got a bunch of old captains, and you got to mix everybody up and try and make sure everybody's as safety conscious as possible, but also as service oriented as possible, and also have their skills honed so they're not crashing boats left, right, and center. And also make sure that they're having the best time of their life and really are excited every day they come into work. It sounds like a bit of a challenge, but I used to absolutely love doing that. And I think if I was a younger man, I would jump right back into it. But yeah, the old gray hairs on the chin, there is a time where you do have to I don't know. You have to sort of do a little reality check and say, I had my 10 years there and it was absolutely fantastic. I wouldn't change it for anything. And I definitely don't want to taint my memories by trying to relive the glory days. It's a trap anybody can fall into. So I don't know. But in any event, I digress. I don't know. I'm on cloud nine. I've been working. We've just been working like crazy, and my body is sore, my mind is tired, and I could not be happier right now. It just, I don't know. It's fantastic. July is coming tomorrow. I can't believe how fast this is all going. And it's a lot of work. I got a lot of irons in the old fire right now. I've got Sparrow, which I'm trying to work on, but that's I don't know. I feel really bad, but it's hard. Right now, Sparrow's getting the low end, just because I know Sparrow will be okay. We're not in the water anymore. She's not suffering, but she's not getting any better. I've isolated a couple of big projects that need to happen, and I am going to take care of a few things this weekend, namely get my hands on a actual big electric buffer to fully do up the paint job on the hull. I did a nice pressure wash the other day, it just feels so good. Rinsing the dust and dirt off of this boat after a week of being in the yard is, I don't know, it's almost as thrilling and enjoyable as watching the dirt roll off your body after a week of hiking on the Appalachian Trail. It takes minutes for the water to stop being brown as it's coming off of your skin. So I don't know, it feels real good. But Sparrow's there, got these projects, and the list is growing and growing and growing because I'm pretty sure I'm going to be setting back out to sea in October. I do know, though, that August is going to be my month. That's where the yard slows down the most. The boats are already out there. Nobody's coming back in. And we'll have some time. Hopefully I'll be able to drop down to 3 or 4 days a week instead of 5 days that are usually 9 to 10 hours. So we'll see. But, for now, we're just going to keep punching it out. But then I got the podcast, which I absolutely love doing. But at the same time, if I go like 4 or 5 days without doing a show, I start to get a little stressed about it. So I'm trying not to get into that realm. I know that 2 shows a week is pretty tough to do for anybody, let alone somebody sort of working a job and then trying to do some other stuff. But again, I'm sort of up for the challenge. I like it. It's one of those things where thinking about doing one is like, oh man, I would much rather just go down to Murph's Shack and have a beer and have a couple laughs. But I also know that when I sit down and I'm at the table here on Sparrow and I'm having a pretty meaningful or just fun conversation with somebody and learning about them, I know I'm doing the right thing, and it's actually a good experience, and it's something that I'm gonna remember for a long time, and it's valuable content for everybody else to take these little gems, these little pearls that sometimes come out of my guests, and very rarely, but every once in a while, come out of my mouth, I guess. But yeah, it's so I've got that, and then unfortunately the book about the doldrums, it's few and far between that I get to work on that, but every once in a while you get the old writing bug, and then all of a sudden I sit down and I crank out another 1,000 words and just add that to it. I don't know. It's one of those things where I think I'm just tuned into this sort of program of the more that I work and the more hours that I put in being productive, the better I feel. And if I go and have like a big weekend or something like that, even if I'm having a lot of fun with everybody, which is definitely important for sure, if the productivity level sort of drops off, then all of a sudden I'm not feeling quite so positive. And then it takes essentially getting back to work on Monday to sort of kick me back into shape. So I don't know. Right now, though, being Thursday, after all the stuff we've done this week, and the interview with Rob, and the interview with Elaine and Russ, all of the last three that I was able to do, holy cow, I don't know. And the presentation thrown in the mix, and the possible, they do a little series of them up here in Rockland at the public library, so I inquired about that, and they were very interested. So I don't know, it's amazing when you kickstart something and you start really pushing for it, all of a sudden all these other avenues start to open, and I don't know, it can be crazy. I do feel like sometimes I live a bit of a roller coaster life, because sometimes there's times where everything seems so bleak and I'm just like, wow, I don't even know if I can do the podcast anymore. What's the point? And then I'm like, I'm never going to be able to do a presentation again. Believe it or not, I mean, I get pretty down in the dumps sometimes, just like everybody, and try and fight through that. Usually it's a lot of times it happens if I take enough time off of ever getting like any sort of even just a little bit of exercise. I don't know. I sort of go into this sort of hibernation mode, but my mind follows, and I'm sort of, and I don't know. I know I'm just sort of spitballing and rambling. This is going to be a pretty short podcast. I just felt like sort of getting on here and sort of sharing. I don't know, just sharing where I'm at, I guess, at this point. We've got, you could technically say we're still in the beginning of the summer, but I always like to treat it like the summer's almost over, and that way you cherish each and every moment more than you normally would, because, hey, the cool evening breezes of September and the nor'easters of October will be filling the air soon. And it'll come up faster than we know it. 4th of July comes and goes this weekend, and who knows? Hopefully I get to see some good friends and, kind of reconnect. And that was the other thing. Holy cow, just reaching out and reconnecting with a few other people. I don't know. I got so much great feedback over this last week, and there was one, oh man, I don't even know exactly what channel it came through, but it was somebody emailing, and they had mentioned that, they had sort of heeded the advice from a few podcasts ago and reached out to some friends that they hadn't talked to in years and had just a phenomenal conversation. And And after I read that, obviously I was like, oh man, I got to do that too right now. And I unfortunately was only able to leave some voicemails, but I'm sure this weekend we'll probably be able to catch up. But I don't know, it's so cool. There's one guy that wants me, and I'm gonna get his name so that let's see, that was Miles. Oh man, where is it? Essentially, he's sort of planting the seed for the for the podcast for a subject of an episode, but it's going to be one of the most, I don't know, it's challenging to say the least. Now, this is from a guy named Peter, and yeah, Pete wants me to do a podcast about celestial navigation, and trying to describe celestial navigation to somebody with a sextant in your hand, offshore, with a instruction book and the nautical almanac is very difficult. I can only imagine what it would be like to try to put it into words over a microphone to the masses. But Pete, you know what? I'm going to try. I'm brainstorming about it. I've actually talked to one or two people, and I'm trying to see, like, I don't think I could take you through the steps because I just feel like there's too many of them, and everybody would get lost in the weeds. But I do understand how it is kind of an interesting subject because it's interesting to me how in the heck you figure out your exact point on the earth by looking at the sun. And while I have tried to do the planets and some of the stars, I've rarely been anywhere near successful as compared to when I'm using the sun for both latitude and longitude. And the method that I use is actually sort of a cheater method. Not that I'm going to get into, all of it now, but as far as the brainstorming goes for that episode, which Pete, I'm definitely going to try and do. I think the most advantageous, and that's a big word for me, way of going about this is for me to actually, for once, take some notes, jot them down, and try to describe not so much the step-by-step of how you do it, but describe what is going on in the overall grand scheme of things. Like, why are we even looking at the sun, and how are we looking at it, and what is it actually telling us in relation to where we are on the planet? So I think I'm going to try and do a really, really sort of simple theoretical how celestial navigation works, and that might be enjoyable for more than just you and me, Pete. That's what I'm thinking. So that one's hopefully going to come down the pipeline, along with quite a few others. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to just do a big thanks, especially to the people that write in. And go to sailingintooblivion.com. Yeah, you can just do the contact me there, and I obviously read all the stuff because it's great to hear this sort of feedback, and obviously to the Patreon family. And we had another edition tonight, which is fantastic. It really does. It feels great to have monetary support for sure. And as much as I like that, I definitely enjoy getting the emails even more because there's sort of a personal touch there. Not that I'm saying I don't appreciate the money at all, because Sparrow needs some new sails, and I'm pinching pennies to try and see if I can actually purchase 3 new sails instead of buying 3 new used sails and hoping that they actually work and that I don't have to restitch every last one of them again. Oh man. But yeah, I don't know. This is pretty much it. That's it. I kind of wanted to just do a big thanks to everybody. This podcast has been going for, I don't know. I think the first one I put out was almost 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half. And I didn't really know what I was doing for the first half of this, but since then, in the last 3-4 months, we've had the best months as far as how much people are listening and downloading and all that sort of stuff. For the last 3 months, it's been sort of record setting for this podcast, which is just great, and it keeps me pumping to go and do more and keep it all going and everything, because if people enjoy it, I definitely want to keep adding that to the craziness that is our world right now. And I really do, I hear a lot of feedback, and I know I've mentioned it before. I usually call it pop culture politics, but the whole, I don't know, I figure this show should really be just a break from all that. I know the popular thing to do is to talk about the here and now and what's going on and who's doing this and what's that and what's in the news. But to be honest, that stuff, it's got a lot of flash and it's got a lot of clickbait and it's a lot of like, woo, look at that. But in the end, does it do anything for me? No, not at all. And I'm not going to push it out there just to try and add to my numbers. I'd rather take a break from it and try and produce something that's genuine and has a little something that I don't know. You may take away some knowledge, some experience, or some inspiration, and take that into your world, and I don't know, go from there. So, other than that, I guess it is probably time to go to bed because I am very tired, and I think my alarm is set for 5 a.m. We have, so with one of the reasons I'm doing extra hours this week is so we've been pumping so many boats into the water. Every boat we put in, there's about 6 jack stands, and then there's a whole pile of wood that I have to pick up. And old J-Rome here, he's the guy who picks up all that wood and those jack stands. The other 2 guys have way more seniority here, and I kind of like it as well because it's a good workout and all that sort of stuff, and I need to get stronger after my winter of trying to write. Yeah, just the biggest thing I lifted up was a beer and then punching the keys on the keyboard. So now my hands are as rough as sandpaper. I'm starting to see definition come back to my arms, which is fantastic. But in any event, yeah, so each boat, there's quite a pile of stuff that needs to be picked up, and it's all heavy and it's all filthy. And so some days we just don't stop putting things in, and then the end of the day comes and I'm too exhausted to keep going and pick up all the stuff. So the next morning I just get up about an hour and a half before the other guys come in, pick it all up, start fresh. But it's sort of this cycle. So I don't know. I'm gonna be firing up the old tractor probably around 6:30 tomorrow morning, and with any luck, Dave, who I'm hoping will get on the podcast too, one of my fantastic coworkers, is going to bring me in one of them egg and bacon little breakfast sandwiches. He surprised me with one this morning, and I'll tell you what, that's a great way to start the day off right. Coworker, unbeknownst, unasked, just brings in a little tasty treat, and you get to eat it and then just charge forward. So, Dave, if you ever listen to this podcast, thanks, bud. Appreciate it. It's so funny. I'll tell you what, I'm going to end with this one. This is the funniest boatyard to work in, I think, in the entire world. Like, we are sort of these gruff, rough and tumble, filthy dudes, putting boats in, heavy machinery, like ripping back and forth. We got 2 big rigs, and we got the travel lift, and there's stands and blocks, and I'm in the tractor and cars and all this sort of stuff. And we're lifting everything, and it's sweat and all this, just like the sort of stuff you'd think is just so manly. And then, Dave, he's big. I mean, his arms are like bigger than my legs. And we'll go and we'll launch a boat in, and then he'll look at me and just be like, "Are you gonna do anything today? And I'm just dripping with sweat, and I'll give him some guff, and then I sort of run off to go grab the tractor, and then you'll hear at full volume just like, love you, bud. And it's like, love you too, bud. And you just wouldn't expect that in some gritty boatyard up in Maine, but that's how we roll. We're so confident and so happy to be working together as such a team, and just, I don't know, we're just trying to have fun. It's not that I like picking up heavy objects all day, but damn sure I like doing it with this group of people. So I don't know, I guess that's a takeaway. It is what you make it, right? So have a great night. Thanks for listening to this little ramble and spiel, and we're going to have hopefully interview with Murph coming up in the next couple of days. If not, have a great 4th of July. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you after the weekend.